Hello, everyone.
Welcome back to Talks with Lucy and Bri.
So in our last video, Lucy can help me out here. We pretty much introduced ourselves, the reason why we're doing these videos.
If you haven't watched that, you should check that out. And today we're going to talk about Switch on Your Brain by Carolyn Leaf. So we've been reading this book together over the past couple of weeks, and we just want to talk about what we've learned and kind of discuss that together. And hopefully you will get something out of it like we did.
Yes, hope so.
And next week we're going to do her 21-day detox. After this, we'll be detoxing our brain.
Yes. So we'll keep you guys updated on that as well in our journey. So hopefully, like I said, some of this information can help you guys. We're going to get started. We're going to read a couple different quotes and points that we felt that really jumped out to us that people really need to know. So we're going to read those to you guys and let's get started.
Okay. So the first chapter was called Mind Over Matter. And the basic point of the chapter was that your mind controls your brain and controls your entire body, and that we can control matter with our thinking, as opposed to the old thought that your brain controls your mind. So the mind controls the body.
Right. So with that, I go back to my impulse control. So some people might think like, oh, I couldn't think. I just reacted like this. So basically it's what they're saying, being able to stop and think, okay, and allowing your body to follow you versus you follow your body and not having to apologize for something later on. The next one is we can't control events, but we can control how we react. That one is a big one. So a lot of things happen in life that we do not have control over. And a lot of things we wish wouldn't happen, but hey, we have to deal with the best way we can. What that is saying is you don't have to react in a negative way. There are other ways to deal with certain situations. Just for example, a lot of people might experience different types of abuses. Although that was experienced, doesn't mean you have to react to that in a negative way or allow that to make you into a sour person.
Mm-hmm. That also, it goes with your impulse control, because an impulse is basically a reaction. So to be able to control your impulse is the same thing as being able to control a reaction. A lot of people react in situations that end up calling somebody a name,
right,
or
something they have to apologize for in the future. But we want to be able to get to the point where we don't have to do that. We're able to react in a responsible way versus an irresponsible way.
Yeah. So this is basically teaching you how to make that happen in your brain so that you don't
continue to make bad decisions.
Right. This is a quote from the book. According to research, 75 to 98% of mental, physical, and behavioral illnesses come from one's thought life, which means that 2 to 25% of mental and physical illness comes from environment and genes. So, in the past, we've thought that if something happens, if you have diabetes or if you have some kind of health problem, that it's genetic, or that maybe it's caused by the food you eat or something like that. So the new research is showing that a lot of it's caused by how you think, which is kind of like stress, because how you think causes the stress that you have.
I really like that quote. That was just mind-blowing to me. And I tell that quote to a lot of my clients because it's really based off your thinking. The way you think is powerful. So if, like you said, if you're worrying all the time, it's going to cause stress, and when you stress, it's going to cause that physical illness. So your body might shut down. You have these different diseases that may come about, and mentally, depression might, if you're thinking negatively all the time, it may cause depression all the time. And of course, behavior, if you're thinking, if this happened, I'm going to do this every time, you're going to behave negatively. So I think that was just a great quote in itself. Changing the way that you think and being able to capture your thoughts can make a life difference, basically.
Truly.
With
like
it,
completely change your life.
It can change your life. So I really love that quote. So, and this is a quote: DNA actually changes shape in response to our thoughts. So in this book, I like it because she talks about the scientific part as well as the spirituality part. And in this one, she's explaining how the way we think actually changes our DNA. She really goes in depth. I'm really not a science person. If you read the book, it's really good. And she, based off the way we think, could cause our genes to change and form in a healthy way versus if we think in positive versus in a negative way if we think in negative. So that's mind blowing as well. So that's letting you know, based off how you think, is really, really, really important versus thinking negative or thinking positive.
This is chapter 2, and it's choice and multiple perspective advantage. This is a quote that you're not a victim, you can control your reaction, you do have a choice. So this chapter goes on to say, like, yes, events happen, you can choose how you react to it. So it's all about the choices that you make, because you can choose to react negatively, you can choose to react positively, but it all comes down to how you choose.
We can assess our thoughts and their impact. We can choose to restore growth and remove toxic thinking. So that kind of piggyback off what Lucy just said. We can choose to restore negative patterns in thinking and toxic thinking. So, and she goes in depth about the conscious and unconscious mind, and how when you're younger you have these thoughts and ways that kind of engrave in the back of your non-conscious mind that kind of shapes and molds you as you continue to grow. And she's basically saying that you can change those. If they were negative, you can change those to positive. So remove those toxic thinking and change it for the better.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a choice. We're directly responsible for what we choose to think about and to dwell on. So that's basically what you just said. Okay. So this goes into about research that was done by Dr. Gail Ironson, a leading mind-body medicine researcher and professor of psychology and psychiatry at the University of Miami. And in her research, she found that if you believe God loves you, it's an enormously protective factor, even more protective than scoring low for depression or high for optimism. A view of a benevolent God is protective, but scoring high on a personalized statement, God loves me, is even stronger. You can believe that there's a God that exists, but if you believe that He loves you, it's better than if you are not depressed or have, like...
It's better than not believing in anything. Is that basically what you're saying?
Well, I think because it said it's even better than believing in a benevolent God. So believing that there's a higher power that is like a parent, I guess, that loves you for who you are, and that it's going to take care of you, is it's protective. It's protective in the, like, a mind way. It's gonna help you to stay positive.
Okay. Yes, because we definitely need that. The higher power to help us stay positive. Being on the journey to changing, old negative patterns and trying to restore to new, it's not going to be easy, but it is well worth it. It's very well worth it. And, sometimes you might, have those negative thoughts come up, but long as you fight those thoughts, replace it with new ones, you're going to be okay. Chapter 3, and it says, your choices change your brain. At its most basic level, epigenetics is the fact that your thoughts and choices impact your physical brain and body, your mental health, and your spiritual development. So we kind of talked about this earlier, but based on the way you think on your thoughts and choices, it impacts your physical brain, your body, mental health, spiritual development. So basically, in my mind, if you're going around sad all the time, or nothing's, good going to ever, happen to me, life is just poor, everything is bad, your body is going to feel that, and, you basically could shut down on you.
Mm-hmm. Or cause a disease.
Right, cause a disease. Versus if I'm positive about it, or I can get better, things will get better. I can work on this certain eating habit or stress level. When you do that, then your mind is gonna change all this epigenetics, and it kind of encourages you. You might go out and exercise and do things like that, and eventually you're gonna see results.
Mm-hmm.
Versus if you're thinking negatively, you just want to lay in the bed all day, or you don't want to do physical therapy for a broken leg that you had. You just want to keep down, except things are not going to get better.
Right.
So,
you'll see results, but in a negative way.
Yeah, in a negative way. Yeah. So based off the way you think, is going to be the result that you get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you're thinking positively, you're going to see positive results. Our thoughts can impact the next 4 generations. Science has demonstrated how the thought networks pass through the sperm and the ova via DNA to the next 4 generations. So this was interesting because you don't think about what you do is going to affect your children's children's children. I had never had that thought until I read this, but it stays in your DNA, and because your thoughts change your DNA, there have been researches that have found that your DNA changes with your thoughts. So if you're able to change your thoughts, change your DNA with your thoughts, then that DNA gets carried on to the next generation. Right. And I kind of had a thought about, well, why 4 generations? But if you look through history, you change it now, and then the next generation deals with it. The next generation after that is kind of like, something's a little off, and then they might teach their children a different way. And then that generation is like, something needs to change. Like, why is this not working? That's kind of how I see it. If someone doesn't decide to change it, it's going to go longer than 4 generations.
Right.
It'll be in there forever.
Right.
With my family, when I was a kid, I was told, your dad was an alcoholic, his dad was an alcoholic, you're going to be an alcoholic. And at 10 years old being told that, I was like, I'm not going to be an alcoholic. Like, what? There's no way. So I made a decision. I made an agreement with myself that I'm not going to be an alcoholic at 10 years old. So I feel like, yeah, that was where it stopped with, like, you can say it's in your genetics, but it's also, I think, growing up, seeing, because you learn how to be a human by watching the humans that are raising you. So if you see someone functioning as an alcoholic, then you might think, oh, this is how you
things
do
supposed
life.
to be. Yeah, right, exactly. Have you ever had to, like, struggle with, I don't want to, I'm being my father, and you have to correct yourself? Or since 10 years old, it was like, I'm not going to be an alcoholic, and that was that? I
had for about 2 to 3 years where I was drinking really heavily. But I was never abusive or like how he was. I never thought, oh, I'm being my dad. I just was like, wow, I'm drinking a lot of alcohol.
Because some people, they grow up in a toxic home, and they tell themselves, I'm not going to be this way, and sometimes end up being exactly who they say they didn't want to be. But I think that's why it carries down generations. But you have to put in a conscious effort to actually change those
Right.
patterns if you want to break those generational cycles. Even in my family, it's things that has been done and seen and I guess passed down. I recognize, hey, I don't want it to be like that. That's not right. It's gonna stop at me. So I can start a new generation of positive patterns and being able to express your emotions and think clearly in an effective way. This is a quote: taken collectively, the studies on epigenetics show us that the good, the bad, and the ugly do come down through the generations, but your mind is the signal, the epigenetic factor that switches these genes on or off. Therefore, you are not destined to live out the negative patterns of your forebears. You can instead make a life choice to overcome by tweaking their patterns of expression. So that's basically what I just said.
What you just said.
I'm overcoming those negative patterns and setting new ones.
Mm-hmm. This is another quote that the key lies with that the sin of parents create a predisposition, not a destiny. You are not responsible for something you were predisposed to because of ancestral decisions. You are responsible, however, to be aware of predispositions, evaluate them, and choose to eliminate them. So that one's basically the same too, but just saying, like, yeah, it might be predisposed in your genes, but you have the choice to make a change.
I hear all the time, oh, this all I know. Which sometimes, if you're in an environment that's all you see, then you sometimes going to think that's all you know. That's how life is going to be. But we know that, everybody knows right from wrong. So if you know something is not making you feel, like a healthy human being, or, is making you sad or depressed, and when something is just not right. So if you recognize that, it's up to you. I would encourage you to find, what do I need to do in order to make this change? Like, it doesn't have to be that way. Some people just settle and like, oh, well, this is life. You have a choice in finding out how can I, make myself happy. So.
Yeah, because you're not living for your parents. You're living for you. And what your family thinks or what the people you live with thinks, like, if that doesn't go with what you want for your life, then you have to choose to make a change.
And do what's best for you. We're not saying, completely cut them out, but at the same time, in a respectful way, do what it is that you need to do for yourself in order for you to be happy and successful.
Right. This says, neuroplasticity can operate for us as well as against us, because whatever we think about the most will grow. This applies to both the positive and the negative ends of the spectrum. So neuroplasticity is basically like your brain is plastic. It can grow. In the past, they thought that once you get to a certain age that your brain just stops. You can't learn things. But now they've learned that so you have a choice. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can make a change, and that it works for you or against you. So depending on if you're thinking positive or negative is how your brain's going to change.
Right. So if you're telling yourself, oh, I can't do this, I can't, then you're not going to be able to do it. But if you're telling your brain that, oh, I can, then your brain is going to work for you and allow you to do whatever that task is that you're trying to do. As you're thinking, your brain is firing off and creating, reshaping, and all of this. You want to work with you, for you, not against you.
Right.
Our perception of the environment plus how we manage our environment controls our bodies and lives. So if you change your perception, you change your biology. You become the master of your life instead of a victim. And we pretty much talked about that. So if you grow up in a toxic environment, and things are always negative. It could be fighting, cussing, verbal abuse, physical, any type of abuse. It's common, but I'm here to say that you can live and get through that. That doesn't have to be your end result or this is my life. You can someday get out of that environment, reshape the way you think and your perception on life, and like, hey, life doesn't have to be that way. They're that way because maybe they're going through something, but I know that there's a better life and I'm going to get that life. So having, a positive perception, even though you're in this negative environment, but knowing there's a other side to it. So